Assalamualaikum. My name is Fadhil bin Hesham. My metric number is D19312292. In this video, I will presenting the first subtopic in chapter 10, that is the significance of trade in Islam. For the first subtopic, I have highlighted three things that can make easier to understand about this topic. Without further delay, I will explain about this topic. Islam is a holistic way of life for the whole of humanity as it caters to spiritual and worldly needs. Importance is attached to commerce and trade in the divine scripture and in the prophetic conduct and discourse. The Quran gives clear directive and regulation for running business. The Messenger himself demonstrated the worth of trade by choosing it as an occupation before the arrival of Islam. An Abrahamic monotheistic religion, many Arabs were traders. The Holy Book of Islam describes the trade journeys of the Arab in various seasons as a divine grace towards them. Social and economic prosperity of the people of Mecca depend on their trading caravans. There are two annual trade caravans, one to Yemen in the winter and the other to Syria in the summer. Next is trading in Islam. Trade is permitted in the interest of pilgrims that they may fulfill the necessaries of life. Though pilgrimage to the house of Allah is undertaken to seek divine approval, its material benefits cannot be discounted. The yearly Muslim pilgrimage stimulates economic growth. The Arabic word for pilgrimage is haji. A main religious obligation, it is pilgrimage to Mecca and nearby sacred sites that all physically and financially able Muslims are required to perform at least once in their life. It is one of the five basic institutions of Islam, along with the professions of faith in Allah and Muhammad as his messenger, prayer, obligatory alms, and fasting during the holy month of Ramadan. Next one is founding in Islam. According to Ibn Umar and Allah Messenger say, Islam has been founded on five things. First, the testimony that there is no God but Allah and that Muhammad is Allah's messenger. Second is performance of the ritual prayer. Third is payment of zakat. Fourth, the pilgrimage. And fifth, the fast of Ramadan. The last one are Haji season potential. Seeing the optimum economic, strategic and diplomatic potential in the Haji season. Muslim governments should organize and manage their activity as a large-scale project. Not only does the Hajj stimulate various economic sectors in the Muslim land, but the centrality of the Kaaba contributes to anchoring the Muslim community in a world of increasing globalization, cross-border financial transactions. Moreover, the economics of the Hajj may play a decisive role in the strengthening relations and fostering brotherhood among the Muslim countries. First and foremost, Islamic directives are meant to deliver people from penalty and attain the good pleasure of Allah in the afterlife. Yet the divine commandments, when practiced, benefit the practitioners in material terms too. The same is true of the activity of Haji. It has been observed when the Islamic Haji is celebrated through its impact on investor sentiment, it boosts the stock market as well. The previous findings support the notion that pilgrimage positively affects the Islamic investor emotion. This principal religious obligation, drawing the believer nearer to Allah, leads to an optimistic sentiment that influences investment decisions. That's all from me. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum. My name is Siti Hajar binti Muhammad Suhaimi. Number matric D183114445. I will present about positive aspects of sale and trade. There are several positive aspects of sale and trade. This section explains important commandments for Muslims. First, earning a living. Definition of earn a living is to earn the money needed for food, clothing, and so on. The faithful are under obligation to work. The very act of making a living is service to the Almighty. Making physical and mental efforts at work is a must. In the Muslim religion, making efforts to gain a lawful living is an act of worship, while begging is illegal from the Islamic perspective. However, it is permissible to ask for charity in 3 situations, although even then a believer is not allowed to practice the profession of beggary and carry around a begging bowl. Abu Hurairah narrated that Allah's Messenger said, asking for help is not lawful except for in one of 3 cases. Firstly, a man who has incurred a debt in order to reconcile between 2 parties, for whom it is permissible to ask for help until he has paid it off. Then he should refrain. Secondly, a man who has been stricken by a calamity that has destroyed all his wealth, for whom it is permissible to ask for help until he gets enough to get by, or he may have said he gets enough to meet his basic needs. And thirdly, a man who is stricken by poverty, and 3 men of wisdom among his people acknowledge that so and so has been stricken by poverty, and he is not habitual of begging, then it becomes permissible for him to ask for help until he gets enough to get by, or he may have said to meet his basic needs. Apart from these situations, begging on the streets as habit for a source of earning is prohibited in Islam. Second, moderation in earning. Seeking a livelihood is essential for the faithful, as the prophetic tradition affirms. Trying to get a lawful livelihood is the most important obligation after obligatory worship. This does not entail, however, that work should occupy all of one's waking hours. By maintaining a balance in life, the faithful may fulfill their duties towards the Lord and His creatures. On moderation in seeking a living, according to Jabir bin Abdullah, Allah's Messenger said, people fear Allah and be moderate in seeking a living, for no soul will die until it has received all its provision, even if it is low in coming. So, fear Allah and be moderate in seeking provision, take what is permissible and leave what is prohibited. Business people, shopkeepers, vendors, employees, manual workers, and others will not be able to provide for their families if they shun the duties of their job. Imam al-Razi holds that the faithful must not exhaust themselves instantly with no time for themselves or their parents, dependents, and kids and kin. If anyone keeps their duty to Allah by working, the Quran states that the Almighty will provide for them from where they even do not expect. And whoever fears Allah, He makes a way up for him from pain and grief of this world and the hereafter, and He gives him sustenance from a source which he can never think of. And whoever puts his trust in Allah, then He is sufficient for him. Third is freedom to work. Freedom to work means freedom to choose an occupation. Everyone has the right to seek employment, to take a job, or to pursue a profession of his or her choice, such as agriculture, business, and farming. None may be denied this inalienable right on the grounds of color, caste, ethnicity, or religious orientation. 4. Sharing personal resources. The Messenger of Islam said, build a social fabric in which individuals consider themselves trustees of their personal possessions. The Messenger urged charitable donations to the poor and needy, so that they might benefit from the sustenance of the people of sustenance. According to Abu Hurairah, Allah's Messenger said, the food of one is sufficient for 2, the food of 2 is sufficient for 4, and the food of 4 is sufficient for 8. Fifth, consumption of halal. Halal permissible and lawful in Muslim law. Generally, the term halal is applied to permissible foods and drinks, in particular meat from an animal that has been killed according to Muslim law. Whatever foods and beverages Allah has prohibited are injurious to one's health. Allah says, and eat of the pure and lawful things Allah has provided for you, and always fear Allah in whom you believe. However, one may eat unlawful food if one's life is threatened, which the proviso there are no halal foods and beverages within access. 6. Balanced approach. Believers keep to a just balance in all matters, including spending. Moderation in spending is a half of economy. Abdullah bin Mas'ud reported that Allah said, if someone maintains a balance, he will not suffer poverty. However, moderation in using one's resources does not mean stinginess, shabbiness, and avoidance of divine bounties, as the following traditions establish. The faithful ought to wear good clothes and consume quality food if they can afford to, and give thanks to Allah that exalted. Umar bin Al-Khattab narrated that he heard Allah's messenger say, whoever wears a new garment and then says, all praise is due to Allah, who clothes me with what I may cover my nakedness and what I may beautify myself with in my life. And then he takes the garment that has worn out and gives it in charity. He shall be under Allah's guard, Allah's protection, and Allah's covering alive and dead. And lastly is paying zakat. Zakat is the compulsory giving of a set proportion of one's wealth to charity. It is regarded as a type of worship and of self-purification. Zakat is the third pillar of Islam. Zakat does not refer to charitable gift given out of kindness or generosity, but to the systematic giving of 2.5% of one's wealth each year to benefit the poor. The benefits of zakat, besides helping the poor, we can also learn self-discipline and freeing oneself from the love of money. Two further forms of financial help for the poor come from courage and ash. That's all from me. Next presenter.
Assalamualaikum. My name is Tengku Nadiah, Meta Tengku Ismail, and my metric number is D183-11435. So I will present about the prohibitive aspects of sale and trade. So the first one is oath. When sellers want to make a good trade, they should not swear or make an oath. This is because swearing is quite the same with promising excessively, and the Prophet once said, taking oaths hasten the sale of goods, but abrogates the blessings. And when we swear, we are already trusting the buyer to buy our goods without knowing the good and bad of our products. And when we swear, we must swear by the right thing. For example, if the item is in a damaged condition, we cannot swear that the item is only in a good condition. If we do that, we are obviously just swearing to the customer or buyer. And also, sometimes we're not sure whether the product will be in a good condition for a long time or not. So this is why we should not swearing, because swearing just gives an easy way to make money from innocent buyer. So the next one, which is number 2, hoarding. The Messenger of Allah said, whoever hoards is a sinner. Collecting large amounts of wealth secretly are forbidden if the other people are not capable enough to have all that. And collecting money or food quietly, but only for family needs, is allowed. And the thing that is not allowed is when we have the desire to collect a lot of money and property quietly, but not to share it with the poor, is so not allowed. And this is because Islam teaches that we should not collect wealth excessively so that an arrogance from ourselves will not arise. And also, we don't want to hear the rich one are getting richer and the poor will become poorer. This is totally not good at all. So the third one is ambiguities in a contract. Sellers who sell with fraud, uncertainty, and exploitation are sinful. The Prophet prohibited such business deals, and sellers should have the honesty so that their income will be blessed. Okay, so other than getting the wrath of Allah, selling items that are uncertain will inevitably have a lot of impact, especially on the buyer. And they will be at a loss, and there will likely be quarrels and misunderstandings between buyers and sellers. With that, a big problem will arise and will probably affect the business. So that is why we should not do things like this. Okay, so number 4, usury. Sellers who do things that are forbidden while selling will be punished in the hereafter. And Messenger of Allah said, O believers, do not live on usury, double and redouble, and keep fearing Allah so that you may prosper. So in this world, if we make a mistake in business like usury, maybe we will only have fun for a while, and then we will get a reward because the income we have is not a blessing at all. And the punishment that will happen, maybe we will have such as unhappy life, and money is never enough, and so on. Number 5, dealing in prohibited things. If something is prohibited by Allah, then we should not consume it. Allah's name that is not pronounced when slaughtering a carrion, blood, swine, or animals are prohibited. Any worshipped animals also should not be taken or eaten. Not only we are not allowed to eat illicit food, but we also cannot sell it to avoid to avoid punishment from Allah. And on another aspect, perhaps if there are anyone we know doing all that, we should reprimand them so they will not repeat the same thing. And the important things need to be shared and keep on working without any concern to do anything that are prohibited. Number 6, determination of price. The buyers and sellers should agree on any price without taking advantage of each other, and individuals and government should not fix the prices of the free market unless if it's required. And however, if purchasers realize later on that they have been charged exorbitantly, they are entitled to nullify the contract within a reasonable period of time, and they also can take back their money. And in such an event, the seller will be bound to cooperate. So, as we know, Islam is a religion of justice. It does not limit any profits, nor does it approve of exploitation in any way. So, Islam is so simple. Okay, so the last one, which is number 7, miscellaneous. Okay, so people who are selfish and do not want to share their wealth to the needy will receive hate from Allah. It is because Islam are against the stinginess and arrogance of the wealthy people, and in the heart of a believer, they need to create a generous attitude in the heart so that their life will be full of happiness and blessings. And as we know, the wealth that we share or the money that we share to the needy is a very good thing because we can teach ourselves the meaning of hardship in life, because we can experience ourselves how hard their life is, and we can also set an example to young people to succeed in life by giving a lot of charity. But if that stinginess continues, we will surely be looked down by society, and this behavior will be followed by future generations. And of course, we don't want that. And to prevent that from happening, maybe we should spread more awareness and hold a charity campaign. So that's all for me. So I will pass to the next presenter.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Siti, Dayini, Zulaikha, and I will continue from the next slide for today's presentation about 7 highly destructive practices of traders. So in Islam there are 2 types of sins, which is major sins and also minor sins. And they are known as Kabair and Saghair. So what are the major sins? Al-Dahabi, a leading Shafi'i traditionalist and historian of Islam, describes Kabair or grave sins. If the glorious Quran and the prophetic traditions prescribe a bounty for a certain crime, issue a severe warning of chastisement in the eternal world, or invoke a curse on its perpetrator, then this defines falls into the category of major sins. The faithful who avoid great sins and shameful deeds, even though they may occasionally stumble into small faults, and will be excused by the Lord. So a prophetic hadith enumerates 7 deadly sins, which are described on the following section, which is worshipping others with Allah, black magic, murder, riba, that we call as a usury, consuming orphans' wealth, fleeing from the battlefield, slandering chaste, innocent and faithful women. So for the first one is worshipping others with Allah. For some business owners madly pursue material resources, and their lust for building wealth knows no bounds, and such people love wealth with passion. In order to expand their business or avoid losses, these people transgress divine's limit. They may resort to practices which border on acts of politism to grow affluent. Instead of stooping so low, they should rely on Allah Almighty, supplicate to Him for prosperity, and put their heart and soul in their work. The Muslim religion knows no greater sin than shirk, the association of other deities with Allah the Exalted. The Islamic scripture warns against falling into the sins of practicing idolatry, since through these cardinal sins polytheists will become the dwellers of hellfire on the day of resurrection. If anyone dies while committing pure and blatant polytheism, he or she will be forever in hellfire. And if anyone commits the deadly sins of ascribing a partner to Allah, all his or her works will be nullified. So the second is about black magic. So when corporations become larger and larger, the only concern of their owners is big profits. So they may develop malice towards rivals in their business. They may resort to the unethical practice of harming or destroying the competitors through the use of black magic. From a religious perspective, sorcery, known in Arabic as sihr, is prohibited. So some shopkeepers or traders stoop so low as to destroy the businesses of their rivals. For this purpose, this may resort to black magic is a cardinal sin. The use of black magic is forbidden because of the concern for the welfare of human beings. Witchcraft can damage relationships among individuals and families, affecting them psychologically and physically. So in some cases, this devilish action causes illness and death. Magicians deceive and create great mischief. They can strike fears into people by creating an illusion that something exists. In the following hadith, the Prophet Muhammad commanded his followers to avoid the 7 destructive sins. One sin being practicing sorcery, when practitioners of witchery and wizardry cause damage to life and property, and their offense is established in a court of law. It is obligatory for the ruler of the Muslims to award the criminals an exemplary punishment. So the next is about murder. due to their obsession with the rapid growth of their fortune, people in the corporate sector can go to any length. The owners of plazas, firms, and multinational companies at times orchestrate and execute the murder of their own partners through contract killing. So even some shopkeepers and traders stoop so low as to destroy the businesses of their rivals by means of all types of unfair means. Hell is just retribution of this layer. The punishment of murderers who intentionally takes the lives of the faithful can be well understood from the scriptural verse. So wherein Allah states the hell is the recompense for such characters. So the previous quotation describes that the shameful dooms that awaits a person who has killed on purpose. However, such an individual cannot escape legal consequences. A life should be taken for a life destroyed. The Hadith report says that the killing of an individual without legal authorities is a tragedy more serious than the passing away of the entire world. Allah Almighty does not chastise murderers and wrongdoers immediately for their misdeeds. Thus, the Lord gives them time to right their wrong if they choose not to mend their character and persist in transgressions. He seizes them with painful torment. Okay, for the next is riba, or we call it as a usury. In business, people should work diligently to earn and build wealth. Some people fall into the temptation of partaking in usurious transactions and assume that their possessions and wealth will multiply. Muslim merchants should heed Allah Almighty's message that He is displeased with usury. Literally, riba means an increment or addition. In Islam jurisprudence, consuming riba refers to the practices of increment in borrowing or lending money, be it in kind or in money above the principal amount of debt. Through this unjust practice, the borrower's debt doubles and redoubles, and the lender's accumulates unearned profit. The Quran has prohibits riba and condemns it is as a great impediment to social justice and development. Charging interest is one of the 7 sins which dooms a person to the fire. The blessed Prophet denounced usurious transaction as they result in moral, social, economic, and religious ills. Some traditions are cited next to establish the evil of this social practice. The faithful are under obligation to make a profit through their own exertion and not through exploiting other people who happen to be in need of money. So the next is consuming orphans' wealth. Fatherless and or motherless children are deserving of affection and monetary help to live honorable. However, some men of means prove so callous after the demise of their brothers, sisters, or uncles that they are illegally, in the eyes of Allah Almighty and the law of the land, take possessions of the orphan's property. What such selfish people snatch for their inheritance is just fuel for hellfire. Oppressors should fear that the orphan's price may do them in both worlds. Islam enjoins the guardians of orphans to take care of the welfare of their wards and maintain their property. The scripture stipulates that the guardians must promote and protect the interests of minors and treat them with kindness. So, guardians who squander the orphan's resources wastefully are subject to a stern warning. Well-off guardians should claim no remuneration. However, the poor guardians may take from the orphan's property and just a reasonable amount in return for their guardianship. So the next is fleeing from the battlefield. The battlefield of merchants in their trade. For them, diligence is the way to achieve growth and prosperity. Blessed are the people who exercise their mental and physically energies so as to raise their families. Some people, instead of focusing all their energy on building their business, seek to use unfair means so as to increase their possessions. Instead of facing troubles coming their way, they try to flee away from them and indulge in more practices and conspiracies. This is like fleeing away from battlefield and not facing their enemies with bravery and confidence. Those who desert their posts are warned by Allah. If any believers flees for any reason other than those mentioned next, he or she commits a major sin. So for the last one is slandering chaste, innocent and also faithful women. Woe to traders who indulge in personal attacks and character assassination of women. Such blame might temporarily work out in their favor, but in the long run, they face the consequences of their vile actions. Accusers must bear in their mind that the blame game and dirty accusations may rebound on their own families one day. So people who launch a charge against chaste on women without supporting it with evidence or strongly disapproved by Allah Almighty. For witnesses are required to support any allegations. True, the verse has laid down the punishment for traducing virtuous believing women. It is also applies to falsely stigmatizing chaste men. Virtuous women have been specially mentioned because generally women are often accused of behaving immodestly or unchastely. Moreover, the unjust accusations of pure and chaste women is one of the mortal sins according to the prophetic tradition. So that's all from me. I will pass it to the other presenter. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum. My name is Adila binti Zainuddin. My sheet number is D18310847. I will present a topic about the Islamic way of business and trade. From among the scores of Quranic and hundreds of tradition on business transaction can be observed a strong culture of ethical value regarding sale and purchase. Moreover, there must be no deceiving while selling a commodity or service to the customer. Some of the business ethics and norms we can learn from Islam. Running a business freely is a form of service to the society. Then, complying with a moral principle in the domain of commerce and trade is a precondition for stimulating robust economic growth. And then the Muslim religion has laid down a set of regulations so that the faithful might conduct their economic activities, like their financial and commercial transactions accordingly. The directives are meant to govern the right and obligation of parties to sell and purchase. Number one is truthfulness. In one hadith from Uqbah bin Amir, Prophet Muhammad said, لا يحل لامرئ يبيع سلعة يعلم أن بهذا أين إلا الأخبار. This means it's not lawful for Muslim to sell goods, knowing that there has any defect in them without mentioning it. The seller must inform the buyer about any defect in the item she offers for sale. It means like for example, we as a customer has the right to get the goods which are perfect in nature and it's without having any demerits of defect. And in Islam has sincerely valued truth as a moral value because it is integral element in the formation of social relation. The Almighty asks believer to tell the truth in any situation. Number two is honesty in dealing. In Quran, Allah said, Ya ayyuhallazina amanu ittaqullah wa qulu qawlan sadidan. It means, oh believer, I will fear Allah and say what is a correct and straight. If they speak the truth and make things clear, they, the buyer and the seller, will be places in their sale. If they lie, the blessing of their transaction will be not obligated. And the faithful must adhere the truth not only in religious but also in material affair of life, not only in their words but also in their deeds. This means like while persuading a customer to purchase sellable item, the seller conversation must be truth. Number three is disclosing defects. In Quran, Allah described the character of faithful. It sounds like this. وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ لَإِيمَانَاتِهِمْ وَعَهْدِهِمْ رَاعُونَ. And those who are watchful of their trust and their pledges. The seller must take any damage found on the goods internally or externally. It means like the seller must be truthful in promise and conversation is one of the characteristics by which the faithful are known. And the seller and the buyer have the option to revoke the sale as long as they have not separate or until they are separate. If they speak the truth and make things clear in their purchase, they will be placed in their sale. If they lie, the blessing of the transaction will be obligated. Number four is giving full weight and measure. In Quran, Allah Almighty directs manufacturer, trades, and seller to give full measure. Allah said, وَأَوْفُوا الْكَيْلَ وَالْمِيزَانَ بِالْقِسْطِ, and always give full measure and weight with justice. A believer, the seller should act with fairness because our Almighty is always watching. Moral and religious section should be enough for that someone to behave rightly. In Islam, has provided complete guidance on how to interact with others in society. She taught the concept of balance and price measure. The hallmark of a business is to weigh and measure fairly. And in our government has laid down a penalty for seller that selling wrong weights and measure of product to the buyer. But a believer or a seller should act with fairness because Allah is always watching and not out of fear of social penalty. Number five is squandering resources. In Quran, Allah said, وَكُلُوا وَاشْرَبُوا وَلَا تُسْرِفُوا إِنَّهُ لَا يُحِبُّ الْمُسْرِفِينَ. This means eat and drink, but do not spend extravagantly because constantly she doesn't like the extravagant. In the estimation of Almighty, people who spend extravagantly are the brothers of devil. She doesn't like people who waste. And we all know that waste is a bad habit. Out there is a lot of people who doesn't get enough food, but we just throw away the food or stuff just like that. This we call as a waste and a bad deed. So we must be thrifty and prudent in buying, whether buying food or goods. Number six is receiving gift or money is corruption. In Hadith, Imam Al-Tirmidhi, the Prophet Muhammad said, Ar-Rashi'a wal-Murtashiya fil hukmi. Rasulullah SAW has carved the bribe giver and the bribe receiver in the nation-making, government, administration or judiciary. Therefore, regardless of whether it's a money or a gift, both are clearly haram in Islam. All property obtained from the paths of corruption is illegal. For example, corruption is money, donation, loans, fees, gift, position, or any kind of valuable consideration for personal gains. Thus, every reception, giver, and intermediary involved in this provision must be punished, and the punishment on them is ta'zir. What is ta'zir? Okay, in Islam law, ta'zir refers to the punishment for offense, and this punishment is not determined in Quran but at the discretion of the judge. It is one of the three major types of punishment in Shariah's Islam law. Number 1 is had, 2 qisas, and 3 ta'zir. Number 7 is pricing theory. The market is to be free and to respond to natural law of supply and demands. The prices are controlled by factors beyond human control. Sellers are not to interfere in the free markets by fixing price and setting profit margins. If sellers try to exploit the buyer with unreasonable price, it is wrong. If price skyrocket in the market due to the shortage of certain commodities, then this is accordance with the law of supply and demand. In such a circumstance, forcing a shopkeeper to sell article at a low fixed price would be injustice. However, if anyone prevents the free supply of merchandise with the intent of increased price, that becomes a religious and legal issue. If such a person is caught, she will death with by law enforced in accordance with the immunity of the offence. However, such evil character will be punished severely in the hereafter. Okay, that's all from me. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum, my name is Iliya Afiqah binti Roslan, metric number D20112623. I will present about contemporary issue in Islamic business and trade. To attain a particular goal or gain an advantage, people need to develop a plan of action and then execute it. The same true of running a business as well. Encarta defines strategic planning as the planning of all the activities of business to ensure competitive advantage and profitability. Every corporation employs strategic planning in order to realize its target. Every organization uses strategic planning to set priorities. It helps to focus on their resource and strengthen the operation. Strategic planning is important to ensure employees in organization and other stakeholders are working toward common goals. These common goals will be established agreement around intended outcome and result. It also helps the organization assess and adjust its direction in response to a changing environment. Another definition for strategic planning is it is disciplined effort that requires fundamental decision and action that will be determine what an organization is, the person who it serves, what the organization does, what it does it. Strategic planning places a focus on the future and become guidance for the organization. Thus, effective strategic planning places a focus on the decide not only where an organization is going and also the measures of steps to make progress, but also how it will know if it is successful. The next point is importance of strategic planning in business. A strategic plan is a written document that points the way forward for your business. It both lays out your company's goal and explains why they are important. The strategic planning process also helps you uncover ways to improve performance. It can, for instance, spark insight about how to restructure your organization so that it can reach its full potential. Developing new product, expanding operation, reaching into new market segment, and solving organizational problem
problem. For example, as you grow your business, a well-designed strategic plan will dictate how you respond to opportunities and challenges of every color, shape, and size. To achieve their target, organization and corporation must create plans and then execute them. The rationale for gathering empirical knowledge in matters pertaining to this world is addressed fully scriptural verse. The preceding verse demonstrates how the Almighty has been running the universe systematically. We should draw a roadmap to run our business smoothly. The companies that are well organized and managed, they reap the rewards in this world. They may achieve the objective of sustainable economic growth. Their employers will assimilate into the company. The last point is the principles of marketing in Islam. Any organization that seeks to incorporate Islamic value in strategic planning need to follow Shariah's guideline. The Shariah describes the efficient and effective conduct of organization as being encompassed with the concept of ihsan or excellence. Every organization must strive for excellence in planning and implementation beside the main purpose to achieve Allah SWT blessing. There are two main principles and segments on how strategic conduct of any Islamic organization can be done. First is Sharia principle that emphasizes on divine rules that every man must observe together with aspect of worldly matters such as conducting activities in organization, and both must remain inseparable. The rational and empirical aspect of worldly matters are fully driven by the spiritual values of the Quran. As Sharia principles derived from the Quran and the Hadith, they become common in all aspects of in every organization, such as conducting business transactions, training employees, forming the partnership, and taking other strategic decisions. Other principles are where market activities or decision taken is not depend on implicit defined guidance as Sharia. It is the tabi'i or natural aspect of activity that define efficiency and performance of organization. It is more universal and can be used by all people, irrespective of belief and faith. Other principles are where market activities or decision taken is not depend on implicit defined guidance as Sharia. It is the tabi'i or natural aspect of activity that define efficiency and performance of organization. It is more universal and can be used by all people, irrespective of belief and faith. It defines the normal decisions such as increasing output by reducing per unit cost in order to achieve economic scale, conduct market research for the purpose of increasing sales and revenue. Tabi'i aspect cannot be ignored for both Muslim and non-Muslim, but both are expected to obey it. This is some rules and regulation on marketing from the Islamic perspective. First is adherence to the truth. While advertising, business people must stick to the truth. They should draw attention to the advantage of the sellable item and provide information to the target audience. What they promote via print or electronic media must show the real nature of the product or service. While lying one might make a profit on the spot, yet the carrier will receive no blessing. The second is prohibition of music and singing. As advertisement and marketing are legal matters that should contain nothing that disregards any defined injunction, music and singing. The key features of immoral styles of advertisement should have nothing to do with the publicity campaigns of the faithful. The third is honesty. If you are morally upright in advertising, then your integrity, openness, and authenticity will earn you a place in the market. Thus, you will be blessed in doing your business. A prophetic tradition warns us against losing trustworthiness. Next is the element of seduction. Treading in the footsteps of the immoral forms of media which bring glamour, many Muslim marketing managers give women prominent roles in advertisement, even if a product is neither specific to women or remotely related to them. Such advertisers, instead of selling service or commodities, market women themselves. The last one is the prohibition of nudity. Nudity and sexist image should have nothing to do with advertising. Visual ads are offensive in the eyes of sustainer and cherisher of the universe. One may promote a business without the display of scantily dressed models. Summary. In fine, we can summarize up from the above discussion that the Islamic business ethic rightly shows a business person as well as an organization proper principles of morality. These principles are able to lead business activities on right track. Accordingly, this ethic can protect business from decadence of morality and humanity.
Okay, that's all from us. Thank you.